Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our life unit for the month of June, and today we're going to be sitting at a computer trying to make our document look as attractive as we can. And in order to do that, you might want to select the proper font. So fonts, that's our subject for today.
Yeah, it does make a difference. I remember when I first started learning about fonts, it was a couple decades ago when that was new. And I remember thinking when new fonts would come out on, the software that we would use on our computers, I'd get excited. Ooh, I like this one. I like this one. And now we have so many to choose from. We're going to be explaining why fonts matter, what this actually means, what a serif is, what is a sans serif, what does that mean? We'll be explaining those things in English too. But first, we're going to read through our article.
Have you ever wondered why there are so many font options for presentations and reports? Fonts are more than just a way to display text. They can shape the feelings and understanding of your audience. For example, a bold font can seem intense, while a handwriting font might feel warm. Your font choice influences the emotions you want to convey, and thus different situations need different fonts. Let's learn how to select the appropriate fonts. When it comes to fonts, two main styles stand out: serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Serif fonts, such as Times New Roman and Garamond, have decorative strokes at letter ends and are great for reading long texts. They make it easier to read and look professional. They work well in printed books. On the other hand, sans serif fonts, with simpler and wider letters, are good for presentations, screens, short sentences, and bullet points. They have a modern look and fit in tight spaces like signs, apps, and maps. Arial is a good example. Fonts are a small detail in our lives, but they have a big impact. Next time you make a presentation or write a report, don't forget to pay attention to the font and think about what it shows. Learn to apply different fonts in the right way to match your message. All right, everybody, it's time to explain the contents of our lesson for today. Again, we're talking about choosing the right font, and that matters. Again, if you're working for a company or doing a school presentation, you need to make it look as best as it can if it's typed out or if it's printed. And so you need to select the right font, which is basically the appearance of the letters, and we'll mention some different examples as our lesson continues, but let's begin with the first paragraph here. It says, have you ever wondered why there are so many font options for presentations and reports? Indeed, if you're writing an article using Word or whatever word processor, you can select from that little window toward the upper left there. You can select your font, and then you can select the size of the font. But yes, there is a bewildering selection of fonts. Many years ago, of course, there were only maybe two fonts. I remember on my old manual typewriter, we had Pica and Elite.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all you had to choose from your typewriters, and you had to have a whole different typewriter for each font. But now you can get those different fonts in your computer. And yes, you're wondering, why are there so many fonts for presentations? A presentation, of course, is when you go up in front of some people and you present some information to them. It's probably going to occur more often in a company when you have to give a presentation to your coworkers or to your clients. You could do a presentation in school, but I remember mostly we gave speeches in school. Presentations were for the office.
Yeah, I know that we just recorded a test recently, and there was a question about what is the man giving a talk holding in his hand? And he was pointing to a chart on a screen, and he had a laptop in his hand. But actually, that isn't a talk. Presentation, you're actually getting up in front of people and giving them information that they either didn't know about, they know about, they're trying to get more information. You don't necessarily have to use PPT, which I hear in businesses a lot, a PowerPoint to make slides, or when I was in business, we would call the papers that you print out from PowerPoint, we call those a deck. You didn't necessarily have to show them on a screen. like slides in the olden days. So, yeah, but those fonts give you a different feeling when you see them. I know sometimes when I see the big dark ones, I think, oh, that looks like someone's angry. Or there's some that give you this feeling of, oh, light and airy. And it just affects your emotions as you're looking at something. When I prepare PowerPoint slides for a presentation, I try to pick one that is sans serif or sans serif. You can pronounce that either way. This word sans is actually a French word. It means without. It means that in English too. So sometimes you'll see a text or maybe a quick message or hear an advertisement and they'll go, sans meat. This is sans meat. We use that and it just means without meat. It's just a shorthand way. So when you see that, that's what it means. But of course in America, we don't pronounce things like the French do. They say sans and we say sans or sans. So it just means without. That's all it is. And serif is put a little decorative area to the end of the font. We'll talk about that. But it does affect your emotions when you see different fonts. So a lot of people take a lot of time to pick out just the right font for the kind of feeling they're trying to convey or express.
Exactly. And of course, there are a huge selection of fonts that you can get both in your computer and online. I've gone to some font websites where they offer lots of free fonts for you to download. And they literally have hundreds, if not thousands, of different fonts to select from. So when you want to prepare a presentation, you don't want to overdo it, okay? You probably want to use fonts that people are familiar with. If you use really bizarre ones, they probably will not believe what you say. They'll think you're being pretentious or something like that. But fonts are more than just a way to display text. They can shape the feelings and understanding of your audience. Indeed, it does matter what particular font you select to get people's attention.
Yeah.
For example, a bold font can seem intense, while a handwriting font might feel warm. So if something's bold, it's kind of big and it's thick. Okay, we've got that function on our keyboards when we use write. You can make the font or you can make the text bold. It will be bigger and blacker. Or you can italicize the text. Or you can underline the text. Or you can block it. I believe you can put a box around it or something like that. There are different things you can do with the words. But this is referring specifically to a font that is kind of big and thick. And if you look at it, it's going to be really awesome. I think there's one called Impact or something like that.
Yeah.
When you look at that, it's like, wow, what are they trying to do? Knock me over or something? So that's a bold font, and that can be very intense, which means it's very strong.
Yeah, it means exactly what Tom said. If you use it in a different situation, if you have a bold design, it's very vivid and striking, stands out. When I think of bold in terms of a document, it just means darker or blacker. So a bold font can seem intense. What's intense? It's a high degree of something. So if you have intense feelings about something, it's extreme, it's to a high degree, or there's intense heat outside today. It's really hot. It's not even comfortable intense. It's just a really high degree of something. Or it could be being forceful. So if someone has a very intense personality, sometimes they're very focused, and they are not very casual, you could say. It's the opposite of that. So some of the fonts can seem very bold and intense. While, and here's the opposite of that, a handwriting font might feel warm. It looks like somebody is kind of using cursive writing in a document. I think that's hard to read in presentations. FYI, don't use that one. But some people will use those on invitations to a party or some event.
Right. So handwriting, of course, is referred to as cursive writing, and we've got fonts for that. It might feel warm and inviting, and your font choice influences the emotions you want to convey, and thus different situations need different fonts. So in this sentence, we have the word convey, which means to transmit information or to transport it or carry it from one place to another. So you're going to convey your meeting, or you want to convey say, the products that you just bought at the store into your car. You want to move them into your car. But in this particular case, you want to convey that information. You want to transmit that information to your audience.
And it says here, so thus, or therefore, different situations obviously need different fonts because you want to express different kinds of thoughts and feelings. Let's learn how to select the appropriate fonts. If something's appropriate, it's just right for a particular situation. If you have an interview, you want to wear the appropriate clothing. Don't look like a slob. Comb your hair. You want to appear like you care. So you want to do something that's appropriate. Or maybe you are planning to take a trip and you want to take the appropriate clothes because it'll be cold there. So anyway, you do want to learn how to select the appropriate fonts. I think sometimes it's obvious if a font is appropriate or not, but we're going to talk about why there are differences in these fonts. But first, guys, we're going to take a quick break, listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是6月3号 Unit 1 Choosing the right font matters。这个单元是一篇克漏字测验，内容和字型选择有关。我相信许多听众都有编辑文件的经验，有时候是打报告，有时候是做简报。很多人在定稿之后还会针对版面做修订，希望在读者或观众面前呈现的时候，不只在内容可以赢得认同，更希望报告和简报在呈现的时候就能留下好的第一印象。这篇文章告诉我们，不同的字型可能带给受众什么样不同的感受。好，我们现在一起来解题。第一段开头提到，你有没有想过为什么简报和报告有这么多字型选择？接着是第一题的题干，句子一开头说，字型是空格展示文字的方式，还能够形塑观众的情感和理解。第一题4个选项都有副词功能，具有修饰作用。这一题要利用上下文判断，选出最适合的词汇。我们看看这4个选项中文的意思。好，请看到 A by all means。by all means 这个词语老师想要特别解释一下，它通常呢就是给予别人允许别人做什么。比方说 Can I borrow your pen？ 那你就可以回答 By all means, take it。 我可以跟你借支笔吗？那你当然会说当然可以呀，来拿去用吧。或者比方说 Would you like some more coffee？ 你要不要再多喝点咖啡？ By all means, please。 那等于呢就是说好，那麻烦你帮我再倒一点咖啡。好，再来我们看到 B more than 就是不仅仅， C pretty much 就差不多，几乎全部怎么样。好，再来 D in no time 是很快立即的意思。那空格后半句强调了字体的作用，说明字体能够形塑观众的情感和理解，表示字体不仅仅只是展示文字而已。所以第一题选 B more than。 那再来我们看，比方说粗体字可能显得强烈，而手写字型可能会给人温暖的感觉。紧接着请看第2题，题干提到你的字型选择空格你想要传达的情绪，因此不同情况需要不同字型。第2题4个选项都是动词，我们要用上下文来判断，选出最适合的词汇。我们一起看看这4个选项的中文意思。 A tends 是照顾照料的意思， B adopts 是收养采用， C influences 是影响， D comments 是评论。那依据前后文，第2题答案我们选 C influences， 表示字型选择会影响文件编辑者想要传达的情绪。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let's continue with our lesson. Again, we're talking about fonts. And if you're going to give a presentation or if you're going to give a report, you need to select the appropriate font You need to find the one that's most suitable so that you can convey your information to your audience. Now, here in the second paragraph, it says, when it comes to fonts, if we're talking about fonts, two main styles stand out. Serif fonts and sans serif fonts. So they stand out. They're the most common types of fonts there are. There are other ones as well, but these are the two most common ones. They stand out. Serif fonts and sans serif fonts. We'll talk about what these actually mean, these terms, in just a second here.
Yeah, so if you're looking at a serif font, it's usually prettier, if I had to describe it. Usually it's, instead of looking like block letters, there's usually a little something added to a line. So say I'm writing a T. The T could be two strokes, two main strokes, right? If it's serif, it's got a little curvy line or another additional line added to those two that make up a T. It's just, I would describe it as being a little bit fancier, a little prettier. And then sans serif or sans serif, you could say it either way, it's like looking at block letters, like print. I know nowadays in school, this is horrifying to me, but they're not teaching American kids cursive writing anymore.
Oh, no.
I know, it's crazy. But it's like, China stopped teaching traditional characters. So a lot of our history uses, either traditional characters or in America, cursive writing. So the kids aren't understanding what our history says anymore. But if you look at the sans serif, just remember it means without. So without adding prettiness is your sans serif.
Exactly. Okay, so these are your two main choices. And serif fonts, such as Times New Roman and Garamond, have decorative strokes at letter ends and are great for reading long texts. So, yes, indeed, Times New Roman is a pretty common font that is used in business correspondence. I think there's another one they use quite often as well. But these are examples of serif fonts. They have these decorative strokes at the ends of the letters, as you just described. So if something's decorative, well, it has decorations. Oh, there's a decorative atmosphere to the office today. Why are all these decorations up?
Yeah.
Oh, we're celebrating Halloween or something like that. And so if something's decorative, it has to do with decorations. And a stroke is when you move your hand across the paper to create a line. We use the word stroke when we talk about how many strokes there are in a Chinese character, like the character Wang. For the name Wang, that's 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4 strokes. And English has the same concept. Every time you make a line to a letter, that's a stroke. So the letter T only has 2 strokes. The letter A has, 1 stroke
1, 2, 3.
if you're doing a cursive one. But yeah, there are different numbers of strokes depending on whether you're writing traditionally or cursively, but you get the idea.
Yeah, decorative, of course, is an adjective. If you want to use the verb, you would be decorating, right? You're going to decorate your house, decorate for a party. You decorate a Christmas tree, things like that. So decorative strokes, just the prettier, fancier, a little bit more special. Yeah, and so I would use those when I wasn't doing presentations. I almost always, absolutely always used sans serif if I was working on a presentation. And I did a lot of presentations when I was in New York. And so it was important to communicate, not just to, make it legible, but to be able to communicate. Legible means easy to read. And a lot of times they use these serif fonts that are prettier on things that are longer, maybe that you don't have to look at from a distance, things like that. So there are differences, though. Times New Roman is probably the most popular serif font that gets used. And then Tom and I were trying to think of some of the sans serif that we grew up with. Of course, we're going to talk about one in a minute, Arial. But there was something called Helvetica that everyone used when we started getting new fonts.
Yeah, like I said, when I went to school, we just had typewriters, so I didn't really learn about fonts until much later. But this is kind of an opinion, at least from our article. If you use Times New Roman and Garamond, they will have those serifs or decorative strokes at the ends of the letters. and they are good if you want to read long texts like books or articles, and they make it easier to read, and they look professional, and they work well in printed books. On the other hand, sans serif fonts with simpler and wider letters are good for presentations, screens, short sentences, and bullet points. So yes, if you have a font that doesn't have all those decorative strokes on the ends of the letters, then it might be more appropriate for presentations, for putting something on a screen, maybe for subtitles or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
For short sentences, maybe for slogans or something like that. And also bullet points. Again, if you're giving a presentation, you've got a little dot which introduces a point. Those are called bullet points. And here our article is saying that sans serif fonts are better for that.
But I think based on the books I've read, and I'm looking at a book right now in my Kindle, and they use the serif fonts the most. I know you can change your font if you have an e-reader, as Tom and I both do, whether it's Kindle or some other brand. You can change the appearance of your font depending on what you prefer and what you like. But most of my printed books that I bought that you can hold in your hand and turn the page, those were printed with serif font. So that makes sense. But for presentations, guys, stick with the sans serif for clarity and just to be really clear so people can easily read from a far distance.
Exactly. So again, we have these sans serif fonts. They have a modern look. They fit in tight spaces, and you can use them on signs, on apps or applications, and for maps. That makes a lot of sense. It's just easier to see the words without all those extra strokes. And Arial is a good example. That used to be about the only choice. You could either choose between Times New Roman or Arial, but of course nowadays we've got several fonts that look exactly like each other, but there are only subtle differences, and so they have a different name.
Yeah, I've always been curious about where they get the names from. Some of the names are kind of wacky. A lot of the names we don't even know how to pronounce out loud, like Bodoni. Bodoni, I guess,
good guess,
is one that I kind of like and I've chosen to use before. But I look at the names sometimes and I think, who picked these? Like Garamond. We don't know what that is. So anyway, it's kind of fun. And for those of you out there that are in graphics and graphic design, you probably have some idea about the history of the names. You can write in and tell us. So for the last paragraph, we wind up saying fonts are a small detail in our lives, but they have a big impact. Impact is just sort of some influence that you have on something. And yeah, they can have a big impact. Next time you make a presentation or write a report, here's some advice. Don't forget to pay attention to the font and think about what it shows. What is it conveying? What is it expressing? Is that exactly what your motivation is? Is that what you wanted? Make sure that you pick the right font and don't play around and use some new font just because it's fun. Think about it clearly. I mean, if it's not important, do what you want. But if you're in business, it'll be pretty important. They spend a lot of time picking out the right font for even a logo. Think about that. It takes forever and it costs a lot of money. So put in some thought and I think people will appreciate it. So you got to think about what you're trying to show as you pick out the design.
Right, and it's also possible for you to invent your own font. Of course, if you're an artist and you're advertising something, you can actually come up with your own font, as TV shows and commercials have done over the years. And every year we see lots of new fonts that different companies come out with to show us their products or whatever.
Fun.
I should also mention there's another kind of font that is available on your computer. It's not really a font per se. It's like pictures, okay? It's called wingdings.
Yeah.
And you can use these different ones that will give you little pictures based on which key on your keyboard that you press. Maybe you can get different kinds of traffic signs or different people doing sports or something like that. That could be considered as well. If you need little graphic images, consider downloading some wingdings from one of those websites. I think there's one called DaFont or something like that. And maybe 1001 fonts or something. There's these various websites that have all these different kinds of fonts that you can get for free.
Yeah.
But you can also buy some from people who are selling them.
Yeah, if you are looking for a very special font, of course, they're for sale online. But yeah, Wingdings was one of the first picture fonts we ever got. We were so excited. So now there's Wingdings 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got lots of different versions of Wingdings. So that's it for today. A little bit about fonts, kind of fun, huh? Right now we're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher.
在字形方面，有2种主要风格脱颖而出：衬线字形 Serif 和无衬线 sans serif 字形。衬线字形，比如说 Times New Roman 还有 Garamond， 那字的末端它就会有装饰性的笔画，非常适合阅读长的文本。那我们接着解第3题，它们使阅读变得更轻松，看起来专业。在印刷书籍当中效果很好。这一题是文法题，测验的是虚受词 it 到底怎么用。空格本句的主词 they， 它所指的是前面这个装饰性笔画 decorative strokes。那这一句呢，表示装饰性笔画让阅读变得更轻松，看起来专业。it 代替后面的 to read 当作受词，因此答案选A。 再来，紧接着是第4题，空格逗点，具有简单宽阔的字，适用于简报、萤幕、短句和重点提示，它们具有现代感，适用于狭窄空间，比如标志、应用程式和地图。Arial 就是很好的例子。空格在句子一开头，而且马上接着就是逗点，这10之8九只能放副词。4个选项都是副词，那我们要按照文意来筛选，所以我们一起看看选项的中文意思。A on the other hand， 另一方面。B furthermore， 此外。C until now， 至今。D in particular， 尤其。第2段开头点出字体有2种主要风格，分别是衬线字体和无衬线字体。空格前3句都在介绍 Serif， 而空格后开始讨论 sans serif， 可见是对同一件事物提供不同角度或切入点，使用另一方面来做连接。因此答案选 A on the other hand。 字形是生活中的小细节，却有重大影响。下次大家做简报或写报告的时候，不要忘记关注字形，并且去思考它所呈现的内容。那第5题呢，4个选项都是动词片语。那这一题是词汇题，要利用上下文做判断，选出最适合的词汇。我们看一下4个选项中文意思。A. Improve your design skills 是改善提升你的设计技巧。B. Gather your thoughts 整理思绪。C. Collect your information 就收集资讯。D. Match your message 就是和讯息相对应。那考量前后文，第5题选 D， 表示学会用正确的方式应用不同字形，让它们和传达的讯息相对应。好，以上就是我们针对克漏字测验所做的中文讲解。See you next time.
That's it for today, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. And by all means, do select the proper font for your next presentation or for your next advertisement. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.